Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning to you. Happy holidays. My name is Ubongo Bastifidelis. I'm super excited to be talking to you today, especially because about 5 years ago, I was also in your position, right? I was even in your campus. Okay, so it's such a pleasure to be talking to you today. Thank you, Mr. Oluwole, for this opportunity. You're doing so great with the legal learning with the law school students. Thank you so much for this opportunity and thank you for what you are doing. Okay, so I know this is a very critical time in your lives because you're preparing for the bar finals, right? So you're done with your coursework, done with externship, and you're literally counting down to the examinations. Well, the first thing I want to say in this very brief session, right? I have just a few minutes. First thing I want to say is that you are not the first person to write bar finals, and you will not be the last person to write bar finals. Okay, so I know it can be the entire year, it's very intense, it's almost like 5 years of undergraduate studies put in 1 year. There's so much to know, there's so much to learn, and all of that. But I need you to know that the bar finals is surmountable, right? People have written the bar finals before you and they came out strong. They had the same fears you have, they had the same anxiety, they had the same everything, the same, same curriculum, almost the same teachers, same environment, and they came out successful. Okay, they came out successful, they came out in flying colors. So you too, you are also going to write your exams and ace your exams. Okay, so I'm just going to focus on what I'm going to focus on the period before your exam, which you are right now. Then I'm going to talk about during your examination. I'm going to talk about after your examination, just briefly. Okay, now the period you are in now is where, like I said, you have finished your coursework, but then there are some things you need to note. Okay, there are some things you need to note. Now, the first one is that you have to take stock of what you know. What do I mean? I keep telling law school students that the best your point of reference is your handbook, right? So every course, civil litigation, criminal litigation, property practice, everything has a handbook. And I want to believe that you have been given those handbooks, right? Those books that you have like a course outline. So usually each course has 20 topics or so. Now each topic has subheadings. They have literally their subheadings, the things that you're supposed to know. So in civil litigation, in a particular topic, like which topic should I take now in civil procedure? Let's say election petition. So under election petition in your handbook, you would see the things that you are supposed to know, procedural, the time frame for this and that, the different courts. Everything is written down. Now, in this period before your examinations, I want to believe that you've done your studies and you are still studying. But in this period just before your examinations, you should pick up your handbook for every single course and take stock of what you know. Make sure that the information you know, the information you've read, the information you've mastered and memorized is what is actually in the course handbook. You know why? For civil litigation, for instance, the textbook I had was Agaba, right? The Agaba and Stanley Idum, very big, voluminous book. Now, is everything in that textbook going to come out in the examination? The answer is no. What you're going to be asked is what is in the handbook, because that is what law school requires for you to know. So it does not profit you anything to know so much about a topic and know more than you are supposed to know. Why? Because you have limited time to read, you have limited time to memorize, and you have 5 whole courses. So pick up your handbook. This is the time to pick up your handbook and ask yourself, do I know what I'm supposed to know about every single topic? Now, if you want to have a first class, I know not everybody wants to have a first class, but I wanted to have a first class, and by God's grace, I actually had a first class. So what I'm going to say is my own experience and what worked for me, right? Now, I knew that, some people don't like some kind of topics. There are some topics that are difficult and you just feel like, oh, let this topic not come out. You can't afford to do that in bar finals, especially if you want to have a first class. You have to master all the topics. And the easiest way to master the topics is to know what you are supposed to know about that topic. So pick up your course outline, make sure that you can answer all the questions. What is arraignment? When does arraignment start? What is trial within trial? You know all of those things as highlighted in the course book. So the first thing is to take stock of what you know. Concerning trial, what do I know? Concerning election petition, what do I know? Concerning fundamental human rights procedure, what do I know? Right? Concerning rent recovery, what do I know about this topic? What do I know about mortgage? What am I supposed to know? Is what I know what I'm supposed to know? It is very, very important. Now, number two thing to take note of in this period just before your examination is to avoid distractions. And what kind of distraction am I talking about? Don't distract yourself with methods you are not used to. Now, there's so much pressure this period, right? There's pressure people are going to be citing cases you've never heard before. People are going to be citing authorities you've never heard before. And you're like, oh, I've not read that one. And then your roommate is busy reading throughout the night, or there's a group that is just, please, this is not the time to take up what you are not used to. If you're not used to reading in the night, it's not now. It's not if you're not used to till daybreak, it's not now. If you're not used to staying all through the day just reading, it's not now. If you're not used to reading in groups, it's not now. If you're not used to back to back to back to back tutorial, you shouldn't start it now. Right? Now, what worked for you? 5 years of undergraduate studies. What was it that worked for you? Were you a night reader? Were you a morning reader? Were you the kind of person that read in groups? What is it that has been working for you all this while? Let it not be because there's pressure, everybody's doing everything, that you start doing what you are not used to. It is very, very dangerous. Hold what you know and stick to what you know. Stick to the methods you know. Stick to the things that you know. Okay, that's number two. Now, number three, this one is often overlooked. I smile when I want to say this one, or anytime I'm discussing with a bar aspirant, it almost looks like this is insignificant. But the truth is, you have to create a rest and diet routine. You need all the energy you need. Now, I know spirituality is important and everything, but just before and during your examination is not the time to fast. This is my opinion. That's not the time to fast. Why? Because your brain needs all the nutrients that it can get. You have to be eating well and you have to be sleeping well. You have to sleep well because all the information that you have tried to memorize will be consolidated in your brain at a rested point. When your brain is overworked, it will forget. And you cannot afford to forget during your exams. So make sure that you are sleeping well. This is not the time to start reading de novo. No. I mean, people that have had conversations with me, I always say it, that during my during lectures, I formed my notes. I had law school notes, right? So during lectures, before every lecture, I will have notes, my own notes for the lecture, divided into two. I had the notes that I formed from the handbook and textbooks. Then I had space for what will be taught in class. So that period was when I was forming my notes. Extension period was when I was reading back to back to back, making sure I covered all the topics. I read my notes almost 5 times, back to back, start to finish. Everything during externship. So the period before examination is not when you start forming notes. It's not when you start gathering new information. This is not the time, right? I'm sure you must have done your work before now. So this is not the time to do marathon reading. This is the time for you to pace yourself. Make sure you are eating well and you are sleeping well. If you are a night reader, make sure that you have taken time to rest during the day so that you can read in the night. If you don't read in the night, make sure you cover what you're supposed to cover, revise in the daytime, and be sure to sleep properly. I'm not talking about the kind of sleep that during the sleep you are reciting cases. In your dream, you are citing authorities. No, I'm talking about resting properly. Make sure that you have time to read and time to rest, and make sure you are eating well. If you need extra support from home or something, tell them to send you money so that you can buy good food this period. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Make sure you're eating. This thing I'm saying sounds like it is insignificant, but I'm telling you that how your brain will function well, especially that bar finance is 1 week, back to back to back, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's no time, so your brain is going to need a lot of energy and nutrients that is gotten from food and sleeping. I cannot overemphasize this, but I have to move. Okay, now the next thing is that repetition is key. Don't get tired of going over and over and over. Don't get tired of revising. Go over and over and over. That's how it will stick. I mean, imagine having 20 topics for every course. That's 100 topics. 100 topics that are bulky. So you have to go over and over. That's why I read my notes nothing less than 5 times. That's during externship, after externship and all that. So I went again and again. That's what's going to help it stick. That's how those cases will stick. That's how those sections will stick, right? That's how the drafting will stick over and over and over. Don't get tired. Don't get tired. Once about finance is over, it's over, right? So use all your time now, use all your energy now. Make sure you're going over and over and over and over and over your notes, right? Now, during your examinations, let's say few days to your exam and when your examination has started, right? Make sure, I already said this, make sure that you have enough rest and you eat well and you sleep well. So after one paper, make sure you rest before you start revising again. It will help your brain. Listen, I'm telling you, it will help your brain. You will just find out that something you read 2 months ago that you didn't really revise, but because you're resting well, you begin to recall them. Practical stuff, right? Now, the second thing is protect your peace during the exams. You can write. I remember the first course we wrote 2018 was property law. After property law, a lot of people just gave up. Like, but no, you can't afford to do that. Make sure that when you are done with a paper, you keep it aside. Don't go celebrating the correct answers. Don't go regretting the things you did not write well. You are only wasting your time. Move on to the next paper and protect your mind, protect your peace. Right? This is the time. This is not the time that you are doing things in group. No, face yourself, protect your peace, and make sure you guard your mind. Don't go that it can be very tempting, right? It's normal now. After an exam, you want to check, oh, did I write that one well? You are the exam has passed. You can't rewrite it. You can't go back to that course and write it again. So just leave it like that, okay, and go on to the next paper. Make sure you eat first, then you sleep, wake up and revise the next paper ahead until you finish it. Now, during the examination, another thing to note is make sure that you time yourself, especially for MCQ. MCQ is the fastest thing that can happen to you in law school. They say it's 1 hour, but I tell you that examination is up to 40 minutes. It is the fastest 1 hour of your life, especially because you have to answer 100 questions. It goes, right? So make sure you time yourself. You practice. I'm sure Mr. Oluwole would have taught you to practice with 40 minutes or 45 minutes and make sure that you are done with 100 questions in 45 minutes. Also, for the theory, you have 3 hours. And trust me, 3 hours, I think it's 2.5 or 3 hours. It looks long, but it is not long when you have to answer 4 questions. Make sure you time yourself. Okay? Now, another thing that you should note during the examinations, target drafts. This one was one of my secrets. Civil litigation, criminal litigation, I think ethics, and even corporates too. Corporate and property law. I was looking for where there is drafts. Anywhere there is draft, I went there. You know why? Because by the time you write in the High Court of Lagos State, that's already quarter mark. I'm sure you've seen the marking guide, the marking scheme for law school. By the time you've written in the High Court of Lagos State, in the Lagos or Ikeja Judicial Division, holding in Lagos, that's already 1 mark. By the time you now write suit number, so and so, between so and so, you write this one plaintiff, write this one defendant, or write applicant or respondent. By the time you are done with that already, you have already gotten 3 marks, and 3 marks in bar finals can save your life. So look for the draft. That's just one of my secrets, right? Look for the draft. For corporate law was a lot. I mean, resolution, it was corporate law was one of those courses that, but what I did was I looked for where there is draft. Wherever they are drafting letter, they are drafting resolution, they are drafting anything, processes, affidavit. Oh my God. That was where I was going to. Why? Because by the time they are done, at least I should be able to have secured half of the marks of that question just from drafts. Okay, so those questions that have draft and have number one A, number one number one number B, C, D, all those long ones, you know that the marks are spread across. Now, I'm not saying you should go and answer it if you did not read it or something, but just target those kind of questions, because law school marking scheme is not the same marking scheme as undergraduate, right? Where your stories matter. No, go straight to the point. There's something that they're looking for in a particular question, and if you write that thing, you can get 2 marks, 4 marks. Now, if you have like many questions in a particular sub questions in a particular question, then you can already say, if this question is 15 marks, ABC, that means you've divided into 5 marks, right? Now, if A has you can already tell how many marks. So you go for that. That is what you should be looking out. You should look out for that in your exam. Make sure you draft. Then the last thing I'm going to say during your examination, before I go into the mathematics of first class, right? Last thing I'm going to say during your examination is be sensitive, right? I'm sure by now, whether you are a Muslim or you're a Christian or you worship Juju, there's something you are sure worshiping, because I'm telling you that bar finals is spiritual. Whatever you believe in, just know that it is spiritual. So be sensitive. The Holy Spirit, God can actually tell you what to read. That's the truth. This one happened to me. There were things that, of course, you may not remember to revise everything just the night before your exam, but there were things I revised that, my dear, they came out almost verbatim in my examination, and I was just led to go to those places. And even after my exams, even after your exams, make sure you be sensitive. I had one funny dream after the exam. Hey, the way the way I prayed after that dream, I had a funny dream. So, bar finance is spiritual. So, make sure that you are sensitive. Be sensitive to what God is telling you, right? And that. Now, let's move to the first the mathematics of a first class. So, I usually tell people getting a first class in your bar finals is math. And what is math? Math is 1 + 1, 2, right? Now, your exams are divided into 2 parts. You have the MCQ and the theory. Now, what does an A mean? What does first class mean in law school? It means that you had A's in all your 5 courses: civil, criminal, property, corporate, and ethics. You had A. Now, what's an A? An A is 70 marks. If you have 70 over 100, you have an A, right? Now, MCQ theory. MCQ is 20 marks. Theory is 80 marks. Now, in your MCQ, if you want to have a first class, your target should be to have at least 15 over 20 in each course. My own target was 17 because I don't want to hear story. Do you understand? That first class was important, right? I didn't want to hear any gist. So my target was at least, bad as it bad, I must have 17 over 20. But you can target 15. If you secure 15 marks in each course, you keep the 15 aside. Now, how many more marks do you need to have 70? 55, right? Good. Now go into the theory. Theory is 80 marks, but you're looking for 55 to add to your 15. Now, there are 2 sections in the theory, A and B. Now, usually section A will have question 1 to 3, and section B will have questions 4 to 6. Now, number 1 and number 4 are usually compulsory questions. So number 1 and number 4 will carry 25 marks each. Your goal is to make sure that whatever you do, you have at least 20 over 25 in number 1 and number 4. Now, when you have had 20 over 25, 20 over 25, you now move to the next questions. You move to the next questions, right? What are the next questions? Whichever one you choose, right? It will be 15 marks each. 15, maybe number 2 or number 3, whichever one you choose to answer, number 5 or number 6, there'll be 15 marks. Your goal is to make sure you have at least 10 marks, 10 over 15 in those other 2 questions. So by the time you have 15 marks in MCQ, you have 20 marks in question 1, 20 marks in question 4, then the other 2, you have 10 marks. You have a total of 75 marks, and you are good to go. That's how to get an A in any course. You are targeting 15 in MCQ. I must have 20. That is why you are looking for questions that the marks are spread, so that however, I know that I'm getting, if this question is 25 marks, I must get 20. And if you have prepared well, if you have read well, if you have prayed well, you should be able to have up to 20. Okay. Now, after your examinations, as I round up, after your examinations, be grateful. Be grateful for the strength. I remember after my own bar finals, I just went to Hall of Mercy. I went to lie down on the floor because I couldn't believe that I've gone through the fastest week of my life and I'm still alive because so stressful, right? So be grateful, expect the best. Expect the best. Okay. Whether you have a first class or not, you have a second class, even if you just pass law school, trust me, there's so much waiting for you in the legal profession. I'm waiting to celebrate you. My time is up. I have just 20 minutes, right? So I'm waiting to celebrate you. I know you will do good. Please expect the best. And also know that whatever it is that you have as a result, at the end of the day, you are going to be fine. Believe me, you're going to be fine. And your results does not define how far you can go in the legal profession. Know that I'm rooting for you and I'm waiting to hear your testimonies. Just relax. The examination is going to be beautiful. What you have read is going to come out. Okay. Right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Oluwole. You're doing great. And I wish you all the very best. Bye bye. Please, if you have any questions for me, please reach out to Mr. Oluwole and he's going to get it across to me. I'll be very happy to answer all your questions and put you through. So, have a great one. I wish you the very best. Bye bye.